When you think of horrible universes to live in, what comes to mind? Marvel? Attack on Titan? Invincible? The Monsterverse? Yeah, those would be good answers. However, there's one other universe that I would think would be terrible to live in, that being the SolarBalls Universe. Now, I know it hasn't been too long since I talked about SolarBalls, as I did criticize them a few weeks back. However, in this video, I actually want to explain why it would be horrible to be alive in the SolarBalls universe itself, especially if you live on Earth, and why it would also be awful to live as a planet, star, and moon. But before we begin, make sure you like and subscribe so that we can hit 20,000 subscribers, and if you want to support me more, join membership. So let's begin. Now, if you're born as an Earthling in the SolarBalls universe, then that's super rough. Now please note that all the things that happen in the Mr. Spherical channel also happen in the SolarBalls universe, and it has been confirmed from videos from both channels and even polling balls videos stating that country balls and planet balls are in the same universe. However, despite this, I'm only going to mention stuff from SolarBalls because I don't want this video to be too long. For starters, being an Earthling must be pretty rough, especially in the newer episodes because of the amount of disasters that would be happening. For example, the panic that happens when the moon becomes missing and then two moons show up, which would definitely have an effect on water currents. And then there was the moon heading to the Earth, which literally causes major floods in all major coastal cities, leading to more mass panic. And then there's the episode where the Earth heads to the sun, leading to even more global panic. And even one of the earlier videos before all the storyline stuff, when the moon ends up leaving the Earth to orbit Mars, and then he comes back with the Earth looking like this. However, the biggest example of this is the most recent disaster, which is the Earth hanging away from the sun, where we have blizzards roaring across the globe and the death of photosynthesis, making farming much harder, likely leading to famines. The temperatures are at the point where frostbite is easy to get, and when Ceres starts attacking the Earth with him throwing asteroids, which sometimes have been stated to be over 100 megatons, which is twice the amount of energy than the largest nuclear bomb detonated by humans. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And the fact that the asteroid that was mentioned to be 100 megatons hit the ocean means that there's also likely going to be massive tsunamis which would destroy any major city by that coast. Also, based on this scene right here, we can see an asteroid definitely striking the Earth's surface, which is definitely going to cause earthquakes. Honestly, I won't be surprised if almost every major city was destroyed as of this Theia arc. Now, based on the technology they have, we can safely assume that the Earthlings in the SolarBalls universe are more technologically advanced than our universe, so dealing with the disasters might not be as hard. But still, it would be terrifying living on this planet. Now, at this point in the series, the only people that actually know planets are alive are Astro Dude and possibly Astro Dude's boss, but it hasn't been confirmed. So the Earthlings don't know why these disasters are happening. Someone living on Earth would feel constant paranoia about when the next disaster would happen. That's also assuming that you would survive these disasters, which would be pretty difficult. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that after disaster, your house and everything would be destroyed, basically losing everything because of something out of your control. And based on how often the Earth is in trouble, there's a good chance that everything will fall into chaos again before you're able to fix everything. Okay, well, let's say if being born as a star would be better. Surely it is. Nope. And neither would be a planet or moon. This section of the video will be talking about why it would suck to live as celestial bodies in the universe. To start, when we were looking at the Big Bang in the early Rocky Planet episodes, we see how life as a star is just not the best. You're born in an area alone, far away from other end of the star, and if you're not moving too much, you're going to destroy a lot of Rocky planets, which is something you do not want to do.
No! I'm sorry!
You also have to deal with the fact that you're trying to form your own planets, especially your rocky planets, with most of them getting destroyed. Definitely going to cause you to go insane. I mean, that's why the sun's super aggressive in the series. Next is a planet, which being born on a planet would be terrible as well, as you have to spend most of your early life forming and having the chance of being hit by an asteroid or other planet. Now maybe these planets don't feel any pain, as they are unconscious. However, based on the part 2 of the Big Bang episode, we can see these forming planets scream as they get ripped apart by the sun's Roche limit, and two more shaking in fear as Jupiter approaches them, which confirms that they can feel pain. And it doesn't make it any better knowing that we've seen dozens of planets in the show forming and only 5 managed to survive, which by the way, those are just planets that have been shown. We do not know the total amount, but it could possibly be in the hundreds, as we were able to see planets forming before Jupiter was even born. There could have been hundreds of planets that have been destroyed before the 5 that managed to survive actually formed fully. You might be wondering that this is just for the rocky planets, but no, it's not. As we know that Jupiter has destroyed many of the forming planets to harm himself and leading to constant paranoia that X was after him, specifically because him and Jupiter ejected Planet X from the solar system shortly afterwards. And then there was the collision Proto-Earth and Theia had, which leads to the Earth going insane and becoming unconscious. And knowing that the universe is super large, there's possibly thousands or even millions of these planets feeling the pain that Earth and Jupiter feel, as these events have probably happened across the universe. And lastly, being a moon would be awful as well. Once again, based on the events of the story, we see how most moons are just fed up with their planets as they're being treated as lesser beings. Besides Mars and Neptune's moons, most of them feel forgotten and bullied because of their size. And if you were to go even more extreme, many of the moons, especially Saturn moons, are really worried that Saturn might potentially destroy his moons to create rings, which only makes him more terrifying that you can be born as a moon and then being torn apart if you get too close to someone's relative limit. There are some extra things I want to mention that would apply to all three celestial bodies. For example, what happens when you're alone for too long? Based on the size of the universe, there are thousands of rogue planets that exist, or planets in isolated areas of a solar system. And based on what we saw with Ceres and Neptune and the effects it had on Jupiter, it definitely messes with your head a lot. Because unless you become lucky like Planet X and focus on one specific thing, then you're most likely going to go insane because of your loneliness. Also, developing life in this universe would also not be good, whether you're a moon or a planet. While yes, it might be an accomplishment that you could be proud of, but you also have to face the consequences, like your life forms constantly polluting you, wars happening on your surface, and destructive weapons that can easily hurt you. You also will be experiencing temperature sensitivities because your planets that will be dying, whether they be on fire because of the extreme heat or freezing because of the extreme cold. Next, there's the possibility of being obliterated by a star when it goes supernova, which we have seen happen in the show in the early Big Bang episode, or being sucked into a black hole, which while we have not seen a black hole yet, except if you count this one that's hidden in the background at the end of their videos, but knowing that this is a representation of the universe, they definitely exist. And lastly, while it isn't as bad, it's just a general thought that you'll experience. If you get lucky and avoid all these things, then basically you'll just be experiencing boredom, as there's really nothing to do in space. Yeah, you can socialize with your moons, planets, or even stars, but what else is there to really do? You'll be basically doing nothing for like millions and billions of years. I mean, sure, maybe these planets do experience time much faster than humans, but still, it becomes pretty boring after a while. And also, socializing becomes even harder if you have a star that constantly tells you to stay in your orbit. I mean, the reason why no one seems to be born in the SolarBalls universe is because of the constant drama that's been happening in the solar system, and the fact that humans were able to make cars to entertain the rocky planets, as well as the fact that many celestial bodies have managed to make their own entertainment and just spawn random giant objects somehow.
I wonder what's going on over there. Oh, blimey. Wait, is that a computer? Focus, Terra.
So at the end of the day, well, you could argue that living in the SolarBalls universe would not be as bad as living in like the Invincible universe or Monsterverse. I still think living in the SolarBalls universe would be terrible no matter what you're born as. If you're an Earthling, you constantly are in a state of survival whenever a disaster strikes, and when that's not happening, you're in a constant state of paranoia of what might happen next. If you're a celestial body, then you have to suffer the phenomenons that happen in space, and if you get super unlucky, you might end up suffering more. If you made this far into the video, then I want to say thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.